when I design applications, when I do my apps, I always design it from a user standpoint as opposed to developer. Because a lot of
Mm,
developers, they're, I don't know what's wrong with them. Maybe because they don't play drums, but they just don't think the same way as normal
yeah.
people do. And so, as users do, I should say. And so they design stuff for themselves. They have all these cool
Mm.
little things and all this complexity, everything else. And it's like, no, that's not what people want. People don't want to finish university just to be able to use your app. Okay. You need to be able to have it fairly intuitive and, do the job and be helpful.
Hey, everybody, welcome to my show. My name is Tiffany, and this is Unveiling Journeys. I'm so excited to have you here today. Can I just tell you a few seconds about me? I love people. I love meeting new people. I love hearing their incredible things they're working on, their stories, their companies. And that is actually kind of how the show was born. People were saying, "Hey, can you tell people about me?" I'm like, "Absolutely. Can I tell a lot of people about you?" And then I get to share your story on the show. But here's what it looks like. I end up meeting really neat people and I say, "Hey, how could I figure out who it is that you want to know? Let me keep my ear to the ground for you. Let's go through my LinkedIn list. Let's figure out how I can get you some referrals." And then unintentionally, I'll end up saying like, "Hey, do you know anybody that needs to know me and what I'm all about? And maybe I could share some more referrals," and on and on. And so it ends up turning into phenomenal people that I get to hang out with all the time, which is an amazing guest that I have for you today. So do me a favor, everybody, welcome Oleg. Thank you so much for coming and being on the show today. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you're up to.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Oleg, as you stated, and I'm an IT guy. I've been an IT guy for a long time. And I love helping small businesses is my concentration with technology. In other words, there's many things that technology can do to improve their business. And so that's where I come in with my experience and knowledge in that department. I said, and I also play drums.
Play drums. Nice. Little side hobby. I love it.
Mhm.
Now, the technology that you get to help people with, that's like small, medium business owners that are needing to get a leg up, right? Like they need to improve their website. They need some help. They need more than just going to build a website for them, right? Like the stuff that you showed me is phenomenal. So don't be
Thank you.
humble right now. Tell everybody more about what you're doing.
Well, basically, I'm concentrating on small businesses specifically because in my opinion, they're underrepresented. And if you look at most companies out there, they all have IT departments. But if you look at small businesses, none of them do. And the reason they don't have them is because they can't afford them, not because they don't need them. So what I decided to do was specifically concentrate on that market, is small businesses, because I can really help them in dramatic fashion, especially if you use latest technology advancements like AI. You can do just absolute wonders these days with AI. And so if you know what to do and how to do it, and then also have a good reason why to do it, that's one of the things a lot of people miss. They jump into the latest, greatest thing. And it's like, let's do this because why? Because it has two letters in the name. So let's do something like that. And that's completely wrong approach to doing it. You need to have a reason to do something. And then you need to have your IT people, whoever it may be, whoever is handling your IT, you need to be able to have them explain why to you. Because
Mm,
if you look at anybody who promised you the world, I've done all this stuff, I know all this stuff, just go back and pay me the money, I'll take care of it. That's the wrong approach because you don't know anything as an IT person about their business. So to me, the first thing is to get the synergy going between the business and the IT side of it. And then if you understand the business well enough and you understand their pain points and things that they want to get done and things that you can see that it would be helpful for them to get done, then you got some normal stuff going. But that's where the why comes in. You need to explain to the business owner why you're suggesting certain solution, certain proposition, and then if they understand it and they agree with it, everybody's on the same page. Then it makes sense to do it. So that's my typical approach. Is I never would come to a business say, look, I can do this AI thing for you, hire me. I would never do anything like that. I would talk to them like we're talking to you. I mean, like I'm talking to you right now, and then I would basically ask them a little bit about what their current situation is, what are some of their pain points, if they have any pain points, and how technology can solve it. But also, if I understand their business, I can suggest things they didn't even think about before in terms of
yeah.
solutions, in terms of improvements,
Yeah.
in terms of efficiencies. I mean, in terms of saving time. I mean, you can save unbelievable amount of time. I worked with a HVAC company. They were getting like 50, 20 page PDFs every week. and they had to read through all of them. Okay, which took a long time to do, to go through, especially the guy didn't speak English very well. So I set up an environment for them where they could use AI to basically be able to get the answers they need from these PDFs in a matter of minutes versus taking hours. That's a huge
Yeah,
savings in time and money, you know. And
absolutely.
so there's many examples. I don't want to go through example, but the idea being that small business can definitely benefit from tech, and that's what I try to bring to people.
I love it so much. I love your heart in it too, because it's interesting some of the examples you showed me in your other tech and being able to elevate someone who really is like a high-end small business. You look small news if you don't present yourself well on the internet, right? Like being
Right.
able to just upscale, up level, and bring their tech to match it. Oh my gosh, it's worth so much what it is. And you're right, it's an underrepresented group of people. And I believe in my heart that that's what runs America. Like small
Well,
business, we're the backbone.
partially, though, there's another problem. And another problem is with people in the same field as I am, where they understand that they know more in terms of IT than the actual business people do. And so, because they don't explain things well, and they're basically just trying to make as much money as they can, they come in and do, let's say somebody hires them for a project, they do the project, whatever it is, redoing the website or whatever the case may be. Okay. And then they leave. So they get paid and they leave. Then what happens is guy number B comes in and he looks at it and they say, well, we want to make this little change here. And he looks at it, he goes, who did this? This is like totally wrong. And the problem is for the business person is that they run the business. They don't understand the stuff in terms of internals and the details. And so they wind up in this situation kind of between a rock and a hard place. By, did they waste the money on guy A? And now I have to actually have this guy B redo everything because he says it's all wrong. And they just don't know. And unfortunately, there's a number of people out there that take advantage of these businesses. So you have to be very careful to make sure you. It's not so much how much you know, in my opinion. It's the first of all the attitude and also the references. You always want to make sure that people give you references if you're going to hire anybody to do IT stuff, because that's really going to show you the information. And see, people are coming in and saying, we'll take care of setting up the new domain for you, and we'll keep track of all the passwords, everything. If you hear this, immediately turn around and leave. Immediately. This belongs to you. It doesn't belong to them. If they want to set it up where you're the main contact, as they call it, the administrative contact, and they want to be the technical contact on the domain, that's wonderful because it's doable. And this way you can always get rid of them if you need to, but you're basically in control. But the business with somebody telling you they're going to keep track of everything for you, it sounds good on paper. It's horrible in real life. I had one client, a restaurant client, he lost his domain and we couldn't get it back. He wound up doing a new domain just to be able to do a new website, which is, don't
No.
get me started, as Billy
Yeah.
Crystal would say.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I could see how this could be aggravating. So let's do this though. I want to tell everyone your whole story. Like, let's start with where are you from and what do you even think you were going to be doing when you were growing up? Or like, what'd you go to school for? Like, it's a loaded question, but like, tell me from the beginning.
Well, I was born a long time ago. At the very early age, I figured out that I want to be a drummer. No, I'm just kidding. Now, I was born in USSR, what's now known as Ukraine. I was born in Kiev, and my family immigrated to the United States when I was 15, 16, something like that. And so, obviously, I've been here for a long time, and you can tell by the accent that I'm not a native here. And I didn't speak a word of English when we initially came, so I went to American high school for a couple of years, and they told me that they had enough credits from Russian education for the entire high school and half the university, even though I only finished eight grades in Russia. I mean, in Ukraine. But that's the old country is definitely nothing I want to get back to. But when we came here, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a drummer. I mean, I loved American music, and this was it. And so when I was able, the first thing that happened when we got to the States, I walked into Tower Records, which just absolutely blew my mind because they didn't have any stores like this in Soviet Union. And I bought the Chicago Five, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. Chicago was like one of the groups that I knew about. And I was a huge Beatles fan, so I saw all these Beatles records, and I bought the Chicago Five, and it's just like a kid in a candy store, basically, even though I wasn't a kid at the time. And so drums was it. I was going to go to a school here, music school in Seattle, We wound up going to Seattle because we had some family, which they didn't know about us. We didn't know about them until the very end. And they lived here. So my parents said, we don't really care which city. We just don't want to go to a big city. But, we have these relatives who don't know us, but, you know, and so that's how we ended up in Seattle. We were actually one of the first 20 families in Seattle from there because due to Boeing, initially Seattle was closed to immigration. They wouldn't let anybody immigrate to Seattle. And so we were one of the 21st families from the old country that they allowed to do it. So there was practically nobody here when we came. And in terms of speaking the same lingo and things like that. And so then I wound up, without all the gory stories that happened afterwards, after high school and everything, my father was drilling into me that, this is not the profession, musicians, you're not going to make much money, blah, blah, blah. I didn't listen to any of it. I was going to be a drummer. But in school, when I was in high school, one of my buddies, one of the three people who spoke Russian that I can actually talk to, was taking this class. He says, come over, I'll show you this game on the computer. He was taking computer class. And I came over to, play the game. It was the old trash 80, as they call them, TRS-80 from Radio Shack, black and white. You're too young, Tiffany, to remember those kind of
I'm too
computers.
young. I'm too young. I'm like, I think I know that. No, I don't know that.
But it was one of these, 24 lines by 80 columns, no graphics. I mean, pretty bad computer. But for me, it was something else. I've never seen anything. I didn't know how to spell the word computer. So I started playing the game. Next thing that happened, I was coming in to play the game almost every day with the guy because, for a few minutes at least, when I could do it. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to take this class just so I can play this stupid game all the time. And so I wound up taking class on computer programming. And of course, to take that class, there was a prerequisite you had to take typing. So I wound up taking a typing class to go with it and all of that. I know it sounds pretty comical these days, but this was the situation back then. And so I wound up playing this game, which I liked at the time. So it was a snake game. It was nothing special. But I wound up seeing that I can do programming and I really like it, just totally out of the blue because I was taking the class. So after that, I wound up going to business school because I'm not a big fan of schools and I'm mostly into self-education. And I wound up then getting a job as a programmer. From there, it's, been decades since then.
What?
But that's how I started. I was
That's
going to
like
be
a
a
huge
musician.
shift.
And so I still love music. I've always loved music. I have a little electronic drum set at home. And once in a while, I'll pick up the sticks so you remember how to bang on drums. I was in a couple of
Oh my gosh,
bands.
that's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, tell me, so you went to school for that. Were you able to just get a job right out of the gate?
Yeah, so the job situation went, like this. I will look for a job for about a month and a half. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Nobody's calling me for interviews, nothing. Next thing you know, my father sends, he was working for Boeing at the time. I'm sorry, not Boeing. He was working for Todd Shipyards at the time. It was a shipyard company and in Seattle. And then he sends a letter through his one of the head honchos over there, who was his superior, but who was a very nice guy. He says, my son is looking for a job. Maybe you know somebody. He says, give me his resume. We'll see what we can do. So he gave my resume to him, which of course was pretty much like a blank page. I haven't done anything except for business school. One of his somebody, I don't know, wound up seeing it, and next thing you know, I got a call and I have a job. And I have a job at this company. So I started working for this company. 6 weeks later, I get laid off. Okay. Why? Because they lost a big contract with one of the local mega stores here. And because they lost the contract, they wound up letting go people who were last to come in, first to get out because they lost this $1 million contract. So it wasn't anything I did, but I got into a deep depression. I didn't think I was going to work a day in my life after this. It was just terrible. And then I get a phone call, again, 2 months looking for a job, nothing, absolutely nothing. I'm in deep depression. I mean, it was terrible. It's amazing how I look back on myself, see how dumb I was, because this was definitely not the reason to get depressed. So I get a phone call and the guy says, I'm from this company that I worked at that laid me off. He says, this is the recruiter guy was coming because back in the days, this is before internet, before any of this stuff. And he says, would you mind if I give him your phone number? I said, no, it's fine. So the guy gives me the phone number, gives him the phone number. The guy calls me. I never even met the guy. Arranges an interview with me with this company. And I wound up working for 18 years in this company after that.
No
Yeah.
way. That's
Mhm.
incredible. I love that. There's no
Yeah.
loyalty like that anymore in people or companies for that matter. But man, that's neat. What was it like? Did you progress like through ranks? So what were you doing there?
It was a small company. They only had 100 employees by the time I left. and they basically sold the company. And that's why I left at the time. But so I got to be I got to the what they call project manager at the time, IT project manager. But I spent all the years in IT. I did a lot of interesting things because we had a small department. I was sent to Mexico multiple times. And what's the funny thing about that, one time I was talking to this, this is back in when I went the first time, I was talking to the lady from accounting who was a friend of mine. And I said, you have to tell me a little bit about, because I've never been outside. First of all, I've never traveled on my own at the time. It's always been with my parents. And second of all, I've never gone outside of the country. I mean, we came to the States, and after that, I've never gone anywhere. She says, the main thing you need to worry about is Montezuma's revenge. Okay. Don't eat. It goes like this. Don't drink any water unless you buy bottled water. Okay. When you go to Mexico, number one. Number two, make sure you eat only meat that's well done, like well done. Okay. You don't eat anything halfway baked or anything like that. Don't touch any fruits or vegetables because they're washed with water that you can't, you can get sick from the water. So don't drink the water. Don't, all of that. And it's just hilarious. And it says, and she gave me some other ideas, but basically she says, I got so sick. This is quote unquote. It's been decades. I remember what she said. I got so sick, I wanted to die. And so when I heard that, my impression was, okay, I'm pretty much not eating anything in Mexico because I don't want to get this sick. So I go to Mexico, and this is exactly what happened. And I told myself, if I get sick once on any kind of level, I'm never coming back to Mexico. That was my rule with myself. And so after that, I went about a dozen times more, and obviously didn't get sick and all of that. But it was just funny, the funniest thing. One time, speaking of Mexican stories, I went on a trip, business trip to Puerto Vallarta. We had resorts. This was a timeshare company. They had resorts in Mazatlan and Puerto Vallarta. And so usually I went to Mazatlan, but this case it was to Puerto Vallarta. We get to PT, me and the CFO of ours, who is very, it's like lighting a fuse. I mean, the guy is just can get into a rage state in no time at all. I mean, he's one of these kind of people, kind of short guy, but can definitely punch. And so we get to the customs over there in Mexico. Remember, I speak as much Spanish as you speak Russian. I don't know. You speak Russian?
Oh,
No. Okay. So I
no,
speak
no.
that much Spanish then. And so we get over there, and he's standing at one table. I'm standing at another table. And it was going to be for a week, and we're going to be together. I knew he was going to be buying lunch as the usual deal. So I figured $100 should be enough. And pesos, the exchange rate at the time was like astronomical, 320 pesos to $1, something like that. So I didn't want to have this huge wallet of money. Figured $100, I'll exchange it. That's it. So I have this one crisp $100 bill. So I'm standing at the table, and that's all I have, Tiffany. I don't have any other money. The guy looks at me, and I can see he's irked. He's talking to the guy. I don't understand what they're saying because he spoke Spanish to some degree, much better than me. And then he looks at me and goes, Oleg, do you have any money? And I'm like, yeah. He says, how much do you have? I said, well, I have $100. He says, give it to me. So I figured, okay, I mean, the guy says, give it to me. I'm going to give it to him. So I'm giving him $100. Now I have nothing. Okay, keep that in mind. He does whatever he does with the guy, and so anyway, so we're standing at the table, so I give him $100, and then I have no idea why. I can see by his face he's so pissed. I mean, the guy is just incredibly irritated. And so we finally get out of the customs, and he says, "I'm gonna kill him. I'm just absolutely gonna kill him." And I'm like, Tom, what's going on? He says these guys were supposed to meet us here. They were supposed to bribe. They actually have an account called bribes on books in accounting, specifically because that's how bad the problem is in Mexico. At least it was back in those days. He says,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
think
going to
so.
absolutely kill them. They're not there. Nobody came to pick us up. So I said, well, we'll take a taxi then. He says, I have very little money left. I have practically almost, I don't even know if we have enough for the taxi to get to the resort. Anyway, we finally get to the resort with a taxi. He comes out, the guy who's in charge of sales was supposed to meet us, comes out with this huge smile. He's got this other guy who is his assistant. He's got this, because in Mexico it's hot. So he's got this bare chest glowing with some big medallion on it, one of those kind of guys, the sales guys. And comes over, big smile, Tom, Oleg, all of that. The guy is just livid. He comes over. Like I said, he almost punched him in the face. He said, I don't want to use that kind of language. We're supposed to meet us. And he just goes into this tirade with expletives, every other word and everything. But the guy says, well, they said the plane was going to be late. He says, "What do you mean late? We were there on time." Anyway, it was just like I said, it was this close to getting a fight. But some
Yeah.
of these situations in during time. I mean, at one time I got sent to Mexico to install a new computer and new system. They show me into this little building sitting outside. Okay, just like one of the like little I don't know what you call it, just a little like station. Okay, I'm supposed to install the stuff. I walk into the building. I had a week to install it. The building has no electricity into it, and the building has no phone lines. And I'm supposed to get telecommunications going and that. And so I get, it's like, are you people serious? I can't set up a computer without any electricity there and
Right.
set up telecommunications without that. So I talked to and of course I didn't speak any Spanish. So this executive assistant of the resort manager she was my attachment. She spoke English. So, by that time I spoke English well. So I'm talking to her and I said, Kleina, I have to have electricity and telecommunications, meaning phone line. I can't work without it. She says, well, let me go, check with the phone company. So she goes she checks with the phone company, comes back. She says, they said they can get it done. It'll probably take about a month for the guy to come out. I said, a month? I'll be here for a week. How can we do a month? So she says, let me see what I can do. Next morning, Tiffany, this dude shows up. Okay. He does whatever he does. And within a few hours, I had my electricity and I had my phone line. Okay.
Oh my God.
Then I said, what did you do? She said, I went to his house at 6 a.m. because with the company, you couldn't do anything. I woke the guy up. I obviously paid him some money for him to come over right now and get this installed so you can get going. So,
Wow.
it's amazing how this is why you need to cooperate with people, because by myself I would have been totally closed. This way we actually got it
Yeah.
done. I got everything installed. So anyway, there's many different
You see,
stories.
when I go back, I need to tuck money everywhere. So that way, when I run
Yeah, no,
out.
Mexico is something else. I have
Oh,
many
it is. I
friends
think it
over
still
there,
is too. It's a wild ride there.
but it
So
is a
you were there
wild
for
ride. Yeah.
18 years. What did that close of that look like? And then what'd you journey to next?
Yeah, so they sold the company and I left um, basically to do my own thing at the time. And then this guy who used to be the CEO who also left before they sold because the new people were just definitely not on the ball. He started a new company. It's a fractional ownership concept. I don't know if you know what that is. You know what fractional
Yeah.
ownerships are for
Yeah.
vacations. And he was gonna build a brand new building in Ketchum, Idaho, in Sun Valley, and it was going to be a ski resort, and it was going to be, it was going to be like really high end. Basically, it's kind of like timeshare for those that don't know, but it's much more expensive. If you get a timeshare for 7-10 grand, this thing is almost 400,000 just to get into it. And so obviously, yeah, so totally different level of comfort, and I mean, it had heated all the racks. It had heated floors when you got to the building when there's a bunch of snow. I mean, it's got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So bottom line being that it was a extremely nice resort. And he needed to find a system, computer system, to run a very kind of special reservation system. And so he asked me because he knew me. We're pretty good friends by that time. And he says, he actually took me on a trip to Ketchum and showed me. So, you see this piece of land? That's where the stuff is going to be. But he says, I need you to find the software for me so we can operate the whole thing. And I started looking, and the long story short was that nobody makes software with that kind of reservation system because he's got a very unique situation. So I told him, I
Yeah.
said, if you want, I can design and build it for you because I was, out on my own anyway and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And like I said, he trusted me. So yeah, so they wound up running for 20 years my system that was doing pretty much everything at the place, from reservations to housekeeping to property management. You name it, that system did it. And so that was my
That's
baby,
cool.
and I was managing that for the next, whatever, 20 years or whatever it's been. Yeah, that
Wow.
was my next step. Still playing drums
What
sometimes.
what completed the circle to get you to what you're doing right now for small business owners?
Yeah, so then what happened was after that, I had different kind of projects I did here and there. And then I wound up taking a job at I wasn't making as much money as my ex now wife would like. So I wound up taking a job at a mortgage company full time as a web development specialist. When internet came out, when the web stuff came out, I actually programmed the first display of availability for this timeshare company in the country. As far as I know, nobody had anything like this before. But I figured out how I can make And the computers at the time were nothing compared to computers today. But I figured out how I can actually get the data. It wouldn't be real time, but it'd be like every 15 minutes it would update from the availability on the data side that we had to be able to show on the web page what availability is. Because if you think about timeshares, the way they used to work is you pick up the phone and you say, I'd like to come to, Mazatlan on April 15th for a week. And they say, okay, your reservation is booked. So you did it on the phone. Okay. Fast forward a little bit. If you think about how it's done, the reality was a lot of times like this. I want to come with a family for Christmas. And the lady says on the phone, sorry, we don't have any availability for that. Okay. So when do you have availability? Well, we can do something maybe in like at the end of January. Okay. So in January, I need to now go back to my wife, go to my boss, because we were planning to come there for Christmas. So it was it's like you're doing stuff in blind mode. Like every time you
Yeah.
call, possibly things are going to work out. So having ability to see on the web the actual availability of what's available, even if you can't book it, it's a huge plus. And what
Right.
happened with that was the guy, one of the owners of the company, the first 10 years of my work there, he didn't even say hello. I mean, he was one of those kind of people, uppity. He just walks by. He's the guy in charge. You're just a little peon. After this thing came out, people started sending emails to like that. One lady sent an email to the owners, he was one of them, saying that this is the best thing this company has done in 20 years. And so when he saw that, he decided all of a sudden Oleg is his friend. And so every time somebody would come over to the company, he would put his hand on my shoulder. This is Oleg. He's the
Oh,
one who put on the availability on the web. So that was kind of a special moment. But this was kind of one of the highlights from before of things that they've done. I always try to do things that are kind of innovative and at the same time doable, but useful. To me, usefulness, when I design applications, when I do my apps, I always design it from a user standpoint as opposed to developer. Because a lot of developers, they're I don't know what's wrong with them. Maybe because they don't play drums, but they just don't think the same way like as normal people do, and so as users do, I should say. And so they design stuff for themselves. They have all these cool little things and all this complexity, everything else. And it's like, no, that's not what people want. People don't want to finish university just to be able to use your app. Okay, you need to be able to have it fairly intuitive and do the job and be helpful. So I tried to design my software from that standpoint. And so after I got done with all these different hospitality deals, started doing the stuff for the mortgage company. They needed somebody designed this app for them that took them about 11 months. It was a whole team out of India. And they wanted to make some changes. These guys were not available as often as they should have been. So they tried to hire me basically in house to be able to handle this thing. After looking at this thing, it was like, I think it was like about 30,000 lines of code because we're talking pre-AI now. And
yeah.
they wanted to make some changes to it. And I'm looking, it's like I can make some changes, but I would have to reverse engineer the app. This would take me months
Yeah.
and months and months. So I went to the owner. I said, look, the best thing to do is let me redo this app because it has some problems that it shouldn't have had. Let me just redo it from scratch because I know now what it should do. And then that way we'll know exactly what it does. It'll be totally under our control. Not going to be a problem. How long? I said, my guess is probably 3-4 months. Okay. So in 3 months, I delivered the app that the team took 11 months to do. It worked
Wow.
exactly how they wanted. Okay. And we knew exactly what it was. And so that's basically was me. Then the next thing that happened was COVID hit. And then with COVID hit, they lost a ton of business because of that. And so they basically had to let some people go, which of course, if you're a mortgage company, last thing you need is a web specialist. So that was the end of me there. And after that, I decided I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to do 9 to 5. Let's just do my own deal and design some new applications for people and help small businesses, things like that. So yeah, that's kind of the trajectory.
Oh, I love it. Now, the stuff that you're doing right now, it's still not that easy. I'm sure it's fun, but you clock in, you put your hours in, and you're doing incredible things. Why do you keep showing up? Why do you keep trying so hard?
To be honest with you, it's like in life, you'd rather. No, I'm just kidding. To be honest with you, it's one of these things where I have a tremendous amount of, I don't know if you call it pleasure or whatever you want to call it, when something actually does something. Like you take this stupid piece of metal and plastic, which is what basically computers are, and you use that to do something meaningful, something positive for somebody. And to me, there is a lot of work involved in the old days before I started coding using AI to help me. When I was doing all the coding on my own, there's a lot of effort involved. And at the same time, there's a lot of grief because this doesn't work and that doesn't work. And so there's a lot of back and forth all the time. And then when you finally get to the point where you can actually see it actually do something positive, that just gives me basically the high. And
Wow.
that's I need to have this all the time. Having the accomplishment is basically what the reason I'm doing it is because I like to
Mm,
see the end result doing. Like one of the examples, I walk into a coffee shop, a number of years ago, maybe like 7 years ago or something, and the lady goes, "Do you have one of our cards? The loyalty cards?" And I figured, okay, yeah, I have a loyalty card. I open my wallet in the middle of a coffee shop. Bunch of these cards spill out. Everybody looks at me. I look like a complete idiot. I pick up all these cards and I'm thinking, this is nuts. Why am I using paper or they're using paper when we're living in the digital world? So I created my own app, specifically the service customer loyalty called Frequent Dividends, FRED for short. And it's basically meant for small business. It's using nothing but QR codes. And we're talking way back. So I'm trying to, a lot of things I do, it winds up being kind of innovative, if you will, like the
yep.
availability
Yep.
display is because I talked to one of the owners of a restaurant I was trying to sell it to. And the guy goes, nobody's going to use QR codes. I mean, you're going the wrong way here. Look at our world right now. Was he right or whatever? Right? And so anyways,
Built
this
right into
got
the
built.
camera, you know?
Yeah, exactly. The system got built, created everything. And so, but the beauty about AI, just to kind of fast forward into that a little bit, is it took me about 5 months to design and develop that app to design, to get Fred going. I just a couple of weeks ago decided to redo it, enhance it, get some little bit of AI in there and things like that. And using AI to help me redo the app, like I said, it's my own app. 5 months of time development before, I got it redone in 2 days.
No way.
Okay. It's a
That's
better
so
app. It's mostly the same,
yeah,
but it's a better app now. 2 days versus 5 months. So,
mind
we live,
blowing, right?
like I always say these days, we live in the future. I mean, the things that if you know what to do and how to do it, you can do some amazing stuff.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. All right,
And
I
I
only have
like,
a couple more questions,
yeah.
because we're gonna wrap up. What people want to know you, and I want them to find you. What's your favorite way for people to reach out to you?
I'm easily found on LinkedIn. If you look for my name, it's the only weird name that you'll find. There's nobody else with that name, so I'm easy to find there. Also, you can find me using on my website, which is pcs-works.com, and because the company is called PCS, so it's pcs-works.com, and that's probably those probably two places you can find me, and you can I'm easily found. If you do a search for me on the internet, I'm easily found. Yep.
Perfect, perfect. All right, well, what's next? Like, what's on the horizon?
The next on the horizon, I think it's one of these things where you usually work for people and you do stuff for them and you kind of completely neglect your own stuff. So I decided I'm now going to step in and actually redo my own website. I just recently finished a website for a chocolate company, one of my clients, which is a super cool site. I mean,
So pretty. Yes,
it's
I
it's
agree.
it's a really cool site, and you can make your own chocolate boxes there and things like that, all automated. So that was pretty cool. And then I did another website for a landscaping company with some cool features. I thought, no, I need to do my own website for PCS because the old one is right now probably 4 or 5 years old. So I'm in the process of redoing completely this complete redo. It's going to be different than anything else out there because that's the kind of stuff I like. I don't like to be like somebody else. And so that's one thing.
Innovator.
Second thing
Yep.
is my icon, my one-on-one communications icon. I'm not going to be adding any features or anything else. But yesterday I just had an interesting revelation that there's a couple of people that can actually chime in from multiple devices, using this one-on-one calling. So I think I'm going to do something with that. And then my PCS which is the graphics creation and effects application. That's the one I use every day because it's so much fun. I love computer graphics. But that's the one probably is also going to be getting enhanced. Basically, depending on the need. If I come up with some other ideas, I have a CRM for small business I put together. And then you have this one-on-one communications, which is branded. People get their own logo in there, things like that. So basically kind of enhancing what I already have built and then going forward, building something else. But that's kind of, and handling my existing clients and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, I look forward to watching all the stuff you're going to be working on. And everybody else should go and follow Oleg on LinkedIn and his website because his website's pretty cool looking now. So I imagine what it's going to be is phenomenal. Let's do this. I want to wrap up the show with your like words of wisdom, your golden nuggets you want to leave with everybody.
Well, I would say right now, AI is a big deal. So definitely, I think every business that's out there should be definitely looking at AI. For But you need to be, as Claude says, it can make mistakes. So you need to be careful about how you use it and exactly what you do. Don't get into the hype mode. Don't listen to all of these quote unquote experts. You have to remember that the timeline AI, ChatGPT came out at the end of 2023. Okay. So when people say they're experts, you need to really make sure that they actually are because there hasn't been enough time to make experts. So that's one thing. Second thing is without any question, I always say use AI, but don't forget you have a brain. And so that's, I think, very important. If you wanted one liner, there's the one liner. Use AI, but don't forget you have a brain. And with that, you should be able to make some major inroads in terms of saving time and effort in your business. And you know that would be my final thought, I guess.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. You guys are going to go rush over to his website, one stop shop for small business, IT, and more. I will look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. And thank you so much again for your time. I look forward to seeing you again, Oleg. We're going to talk again. And you guys go
My
have a great
pleasure.
day.
Thank you. You too. My pleasure. Thank you, Tiffany. Take care.
Take